Conceive, believe, achieve.
This is former UFC middleweight champion of the world, Michael Bisping.
Paddy the Baddy here. You're listening to Combat Sports UK.
And you're watching Combat Sports UK.
Hello and welcome to the Combat Sports MMA podcast, episode 4. My name is Alex Haynes and I'm joined by Nathan Shields today. How are you, Nathan?
I'm good, mate. I'm all good. How about yourself?
Yeah, much better now, thank you. Yeah, I had a bout of the COVID last week, so I would have been a bit useless on the podcast, but recovered now and got my voice back, so ready to go.
Yeah, well, we called you out on episode 3, mate, so you didn't get off too lightly.
I heard.
Don't know if you managed to catch it or not.
I did,
I
did.
We threw something together last minute after you let us down in the final hour, but yeah, we won't hold it against you, mate.
Yeah, well, it did. To be honest, that was the second time I got it, and that was the worst. That was the worst time by far. I had a fever and everything. It completely took me out. So, but enough excuses. I suppose we better move on. Because I
was just going to say before you shoot on, mate, from one little mishap to another. Tell the viewers and the listeners what time it is, mate.
It's early evening. 10 to 8,
precisely.
Maybe?
What time is it? What time were we supposed to start, mate?
We were probably supposed to start around past, weren't we? Yeah. That's on me as well. I'll take the L. I ordered a pizza. It didn't really turn up on time, so I was eating really quickly and trying to get there as soon as I possibly can. So hands up. I'll take that L and hopefully not catch too much slack.
Go, mate. That's what I can get on board with.
So we have got lots to get to here.
We have, mate.
We'll talk a bit about the UFC this weekend coming up. We'll look back at the PFL from last weekend and touch a little bit on One Championship and Cage Warriors as well, if that sounds good to you.
You lead the ship, mate. Yeah. I'm just going to sit back, relax, and let you do all the hard work this time out.
Brilliant. Let's start with the PFL then, the inaugural PFL Europe playoffs. How did you feel about this event in general? I think it was a really good showing from PFL. I felt really good about it. I thought it was a good event overall. What were your main takeaways here?
I think we've seen, mate, haven't we, with the UFC that, Paris is one of those locations where MMA is still fresh. Obviously it wasn't legalized to happen there until kind of recent times. So it's something that they've kind of been starved of. And now there's a massive influx where it seems to be the go-to place for MMA at the minute. I mean, the atmospheres just seem to be insane. It's absolutely rammed, whether it's PFL, UFC, they just seem equally involved. Obviously some French fighters on there as well. So that piqued the interest, and just another standout show, really. As far as PFL Europe goes, that's right up there with what you can ask for. It had a little bit of everything in there.
Yeah, absolutely. We should probably start with the main event, really, Cedric Doumbe. I think he's going to be so good for this sport, actually. He was hyping up the crowd, wasn't he? He was really getting that crowd going. He brings in the mattress, that whole thing, the finish. It was all perfect for him. It was a brilliant night for him. I love the way that he caught the kick, landed the low kick, followed up with the hook, the right hand after. You just don't do that against Cedric Doumbe, though, because you're going to get punished, aren't you? I don't know what Sable was thinking. Because he loves Doumbe. I was just going to say that Doumbe loves to set things up with low kicks as well. He did that kind of thing a lot in his kickboxing days. I actually wrote an article for MMA UK near the beginning of the year, talking about why the signing was exciting and how the UFC kind of missed out here. He's proving why he's one hell of a prospect.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a little bit of everything, hasn't he? And he said in an interview afterwards that he's not looking back at the UFC situation. They've missed out, and that it is what it is. He's going to just continue to show them why. And he walked into the ring with a mattress. He talked to a game all week, and he wasted absolutely no time when he got in there. Like I said, I mean, it looked a little bit of a deer in the headlight situation, really. That everyone was there to see Cedric Doumbe, and it was kind of, as far as your debut matchup in the PFL could go, you can't ask for anything more. 9 seconds in, bang, game over. It's just just the perfect top off from what was pretty much a great card, really. I mean, we talk about the UFC. You look at the co-main event. Obviously, you had the Laser King in there, and just doing his own thing exactly the same way. Another one that was kind of missed off, and it looks good for the PFL, mate. I think from this show to UFC Paris, for example, you didn't. Unless you were really looking into the intricacies, there was nothing really in the events. They were equally as entertaining. The show itself was equally at that level. Do you know what I mean? It didn't feel like an organisation that was maybe a level below the UFC. It just showed PFL as being what they are, which is, a top competitor at the highest level of this game.
Yeah, I mean, they might never reach the heights of the UFC or compete in that sort of way, but I mean, they are certainly growing, and they're turning heads now, and they're signing some big names. And yeah, and all in all, it's a good look for PFL. It's what'd you make of Dakota Ditchever then? She looked fantastic to me. Her finish of Cornelia Holm was so aesthetically pleasing to watch. She lands the leg kick, and as soon as she's in range again, Holmes seems to lift her leg as she's expecting another kick, but boom, Ditchever just lands that lovely straight to the body, follows it up with the right hook to the head, which has Holm in all sorts of trouble, and then lands another kick. It's almost going down. It was a brutal finish, wasn't it? What did you make of her performance?
Yeah, she's nasty, man. She's absolutely. I mean, I've been kind of shouting for Dakota Ditchever for a while because she's just such a hot prospect. She's just phenomenal, mate. She's got that killer instinct, but she's got the skills to point score as well. She's kind of not there to mess around, but it's not like she just carries power and relies on that. You know what I mean? She's well rounded. She can fight anywhere. She's comfortable wherever it goes, and she's just got that killer instinct that not everybody has got. She sets the shots up. Just the timing is just perfect. Like you said, she sets things up. She goes for the kick. She throws the kick. She throws the kick. She throws the kick, and then she sets up to throw the kick, and then bang, it's game over, lights out. She's just entertaining, mate. And I mean that Manchester area is just Manchester Liverpool area at the minute is just absolutely flying. I mean the talent coming out of that area at the minute is just fucking insane.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell me about your girl then, Chanel Dyer. I know you're high on her. How did she look in your opinion? It would have been slightly embarrassing there if she ended up losing, but nowhere near, was it? You were singing her praises, and rightly so.
No, yeah. I mean, I think the thing is with Chanel, mate, she's young. She's early 20s. She's fresh to MMA to a certain extent, but she's experienced in all the individual arts. She's working on the ground game. She's working on the jiu-jitsu. She's happy wherever the fight goes. But I mean, it's no surprise to anybody that Muay Thai is the background, because those kicks, she just throws so many of them, and they're all so accurate, and they're all thrown with real intent. And when I spoke to her and we had the interview, she was saying that she wants to put on fights that are entertaining for the fans. I know everybody kind of says that, but there was something in it. When she said it, she said, I like to think that I'm watching my own fights, and how would I feel about that particular fight if I was watching it? And I think you could see that there was an element of pushing on, trying to get the finish, and she almost had it at one point, the second round, I think it was. But she was, she was pretty much perfect as far as the debut goes. I mean, the opponent changed last minute as well, which when you're getting ready for your debut, you probably are studying, your opponent more than you maybe would for other fights, if you like. It's a big occasion for her at a young age, and I thought she just handled everything brilliantly, mate.
Yeah, I totally agree. Simeon Powell wins again. He's still undefeated. Gets it done via unanimous decision against Daniel Ladera. He's looked good, hasn't he? He's got some highlight reels already. That jumping knee KO was really nasty. He's ended a fight with a leg kick, TKO as well.
Yeah.
How do you think he looked in the decision win this time? Not a finish, but a decision win. How do you think he got on?
I think when you've had those standout performances and then you go to a points decision win, there's always an element of, ugh. But I didn't really get that you know, that's more just the fighter feeling a particular way. You know, as far as the fan goes, he went in there, did the job. I don't think there was any conversation, you know, that he shouldn't have, he didn't deserve to win that fight. I thought it's valuable experience carrying on. You know, these playoffs are high level, and you're gonna have, you know, you're not getting any tickovers or knockovers along the way. So I was just pleased to see him get the job done again, mate, and you know, show that they can do it over the distance as well.
Yeah, I love the setup they've got over there, and like we said, all in all, it's a great look for PFL. You got Kylian Mbappe there, one of the most high-profile footballers in the world. His celebration over the Doumbe finish is going viral. I think it's just, you know, promotionally that was really good as well.
I think it's like you said, it's they bring, you know, obviously Kylian's there, he's a local, he's got the tickets, he's in the seat, he's watching the fights. The cameras draw onto him, it crosses over into the football media that he's there because his name pops up, and it's just a good way of spreading the PFL really to fans. You know, the reach that maybe they don't normally get to. You know, having that crossover celebrity, if you like, is always beneficial to the promotion. I mean, I've seen when we were talking, about Dakota Dechiva, without just jumping back a little bit. I saw her and Brendan Loughlin and a few others jumping onto social media and saying, when are we getting PFL Manchester? And when you think about the PFL and you look at the names that are on there at the minute from that neck of the woods, it's that sounds like it's something that they almost can't miss. If by any strange or rare possibility Mr. Dan Hardy is listening, have a word, Dan, and get the PFL over to Manchester for us.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. So I don't know about you, but we could move on to the UFC. We can preview a bit of the UFC this weekend. It's not the biggest card, but there's still a few.
Sorry, mate. Just before we do jump on I mean, probably flew under the radar for some, but I mean, if you saw the Luke Riley fight this weekend, that was the fight of the weekend.
Oh, mate, yeah.
In any organisation, I mean, that was just an absolute tear up, and you know, Luke got the job done. I think you could see at the end that he was just completely spent, left everything in there. But yeah, that was the perfect learning fight. It was one of those where, you know, he had to really show some stones and show what he was made of in there. And
yes,
just a phenomenal performance.
It was amazing, wasn't it? And I was going to touch briefly on this Cage Warriors fight later on, but yeah, now that you bring it up, there's no reason not to talk about it. I mean, it's I mentioned about an undefeated fighter earlier, and this guy is another one, and he's done it again. He's 24 years old. He's at Liverpool. Absolutely mental second round when he got dropped bad. Looked like it was going to be finished, but he survived and got the standing TKO in the third. Hell of a comeback, brilliant fight. So we should watch out for this guy. He's on everyone's radar now.
And if anybody's heading over to the Northwest, don't give anybody a wrong look, because they've shown what they're made of over that neck of the woods. Yeah. The Northwest is just on fire at the minute, mate. It's honest to God, the fighters coming out there, it's just insane. I think we'll see some top talent coming through. But yeah, next gen again, just a great performance and a great win for them.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got the UFC back this weekend. As I was saying, it's not the most stacked card, but there are some good fights on it. The main event, Bobby Green versus Grant Dawson. This is going to be Grant Dawson's first 5-rounder. He's 20-1. He's still considered as a bit of a prospect in the UFC lightweight division. Unbeaten in 9, 8 wins, 1 draw. He hasn't really got a big name on his record though. So I mean he's beaten the likes of Jared Gordon and Ismagulov, but I think Bobby Green would probably be the biggest scalp on his record if he's able to get the W. He's ranked 10, so I believe a couple more wins, and he's going to be grabbing some attention here, I think. What do you make of this matchup? What do you make of the fight?
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite happy to throw my nuts on the line a little bit here, mate, and say I think Grant Dawson wins this handily. I really do. I've been quite impressed with him lately, I'll be honest. Like you said, does he have that marquee name? No, not particularly, but you know, the names you mentioned there are top guys. You know, they're highly ranked. They're not walkovers for anybody. And the way that he kind of dominated in those fights kind of shows the level that Grant Dawson's on. I think sometimes Grant Dawson's one of those, isn't a big name, hasn't fought any big names, but has the skill to beat anybody. And I think, you know, the 5 rounds, I don't see that being an issue to him. If I'm honest, I'm not convinced it'll get there, mate. I really don't. As tough as Bobby Green is, I don't see this maybe going longer than the 3. I think he'll get the job done. I mean, we all know what his game is. We all know what he's about. I just think he manhandles Bobby Green and does whatever he wants, whenever he wants, which might be a big shout, but that's my pick. What about you? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree, to be honest. I think Bobby Green's going to end up on the canvas pretty early. I'm not saying he'll knock him. I think he'll take him down. If you want an official prediction, I'm thinking probably Dawson by late sub. You know, maybe round 4, something like that.
Yeah.
But you know, Bobby Green is awkward, isn't he? He keeps his hands low. It makes it difficult for his opponent to see where his shots are coming. His volume's high. His footwork is interesting. He'll switch a lot, square up. I'm not sure if you've seen his knockout win against Ally Quinta, but when he gets the finish, his feet are actually square when he lands that 1-2, and it's really quite interesting to watch. The sequence it drops Aya Quinta. It was all about the accuracy and the timing there. He's got so many fights under his belt, hasn't he? Bobby Green, he's really inconsistent, and not many notable wins either, if I'm being honest. You know, he's fought killers. He's fought Poirier, Barboza, Vazeev, Makachev, but he's not beating those guys. No, I mean, he did beat Josh Thompson back in 2014, which was impressive at the time. But the win over Al, as I mentioned, you know, one of the biggest names, and of course Tony Ferguson last time out. But we all know where Tony Ferguson's. Yeah, we all know where he's heading, don't we? So I'm inclined to agree.
I think, like you said, mate, I think you make some good points. I mean, Bobby Green, he's got the hands, he's got the power. He's not a joke, and obviously, he subbed Tony last time out, so he's capable enough on the ground as well. But I just think, like you said, I think Grant Dawson's smart enough and switched on enough to not fight Bobby Green's fight. I think if he does, he's got to be careful. He's got to be careful early. But I think we'll see Grant Dawson shoot fairly early, and I think once he gets hold of Bobby Green, I think he'll just dominate. I mean, like you said, when you talk about Bobby Green and you talk about levels there, that's maybe the difference. You know, Grant Dawson is coming out from the complete other side as Bobby Green. Grant Dawson hasn't necessarily fought any big names, but has beaten almost everybody that he has fought. And if you look at Bobby Green has fought all those top guys, but hasn't beaten any of them really. So it kind of shows that Bobby Green's not that next level, but we'll find out if Grant Dawson is. You know, he beats Bobby Green. I think he shows that he's at the higher category, if you like. I mean, I touched on with Taylor last week, obviously some of the fight announcements, but you mentioned Tony Ferguson. Then what's your thoughts on the Paddy Pimblett fight, mate?
It's getting difficult to watch. Tony Ferguson is one of my all-time favourites. We all know he's never been the same since the Justin Gaethje beating. That was a life-changing beat down there. I think we'll see Paddy win this one. And people that are still kind of hoping and clinging on to the idea that Tony might make some sort of comeback, I think it's a little bit of delusion at this point. I think he's at the end of the road. And the UFC are kind of setting this one up to kind of get Paddy a big name on his record, and they're starting with Tony and they're feeding him to the wolves a little bit. I think obviously Paddy is not completely ironed out. He's not the finished product. We know he's got improvements to make, especially in the stand-up. But I don't really like it, to be honest. I think this could be Tony's last one.
I mean, I won't go too much into my stuff because obviously we touched on it last week and don't want to go over all the ground as such, but I was just interested on your thoughts because, you know, it has, when you look across socials, it's definitely got a very varied amount of opinions on this fight. You know, some love it, some hate it. I think I think what I said last week, and I would stand by it. I actually like the fight to an extent. Not if I'm in the Tony Ferguson business, I don't really like it because, like you said, Tony's got the reputation. He's a legend of the game, and this fight has been made to build Paddy Pimblett. And then this isn't a fight that's been given to Tony to kind of push him back up. This is one to kind of put the nail in the coffin. I think Paddy's definitely not ironed out. Like you said, there's a lot he's got to work on. But Tony's always been hittable. And the problem now is he can't take those hits. He can't take them like he used to. He's the Gaethje fight and just his whole career, he's taken far too much damage. And eventually that, you run out of track on that road. So it's, I think it's almost inevitable. But at the same time, Paddy's got a lot to prove to a certain extent as well, because, we talked about Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson is still Tony Ferguson, but he's not the version of Tony Ferguson that is the top competitor. We're just talking about Bobby Green there, Bobby Green being at a certain level and he submitted Tony Ferguson. Do you know what I mean? It shows Tony losing to Gaethje, Chandler, Oliveira, those guys, it's different. When he's come down, you start losing to Bobby Green. With all due respect to Bobby Green, he's not in the same category. It's a level below. And the fact that he was finishing that fight as well in an area where, years ago, you would have favoured Tony Ferguson to get a submission if, in a fight with Bobby Green, if anyone was going to get the sub. So I think it just shows how far Tony's fallen in recent times. But look, it's going to have loads of eyes and it's going to be a big shout. And I'm looking forward to it. I just hope it's not too detrimental to Tony's health. You know what I mean? It feels like it could be a little bit of one of those, where you keep seeing him get the kick from Chandler and all the rest of it, and you think, oh God, that Gaethje beat down, it's almost becoming unbearable now. 6 fights in a row, you lose to Paddy Pimblett, with all due respect again to Paddy, at the stage he's at currently. You're now on a 7-fight losing skid. It's time to hang him up.
Yeah. What do you think the UFC will do then if Tony does actually lose this? Will they cut him? Or are they going to hope that he kind of just announces his retirement?
I think this is going to come to a point where the UFC are going to have to release Tony Ferguson, because I think Tony loves the game too much. I think he's too invested. He's too involved. I think he genuinely believes that he's just on a bad run and that he can get it back. And I'm not sure Tony's going to be one of those people where that realization is going to hit him. I think, he would just keep losing fights. He's always trying to get that one back, maybe go out on a win. But I don't even think that would be the case for Tony. I think if he turns up and he starts as Paddy or gets an early sub or something like that, he would just say, well, I'm back now. Give me whoever.
Yeah.
Just engage your rematch. Do you know what I mean? That's what Tony Ferguson's like. It's just the mentality of the guy. So I think the UFC will have to make a decision, because it is kind of getting to a point now where watching Tony Ferguson fight is hard to watch.
Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? If he does win, he'll start calling for ranked opponents again, and the UFC might even oblige. But no, I mean, even if he does win, he might have to step away. But he will, like you say, he will consider other options. He will have a look at the division and say, I can take on this guy, I can take on that guy, even if he's not ranked. I think he'll want more fights. But it's just I think it's getting hard to watch.
Yeah, I think the more interesting question, mate, is what do they do with Paddy? Because if Paddy wins, well, either way, I mean, if he loses to Tony Ferguson, we will all know that that's a bad defeat at this stage of Tony's career and on the run of form that Tony is. But if you're looking at a record and it says lost to Tony Ferguson, it doesn't really do you a lot of damage. Not as much as maybe it would if it said lost to Jared Gordon. Again, with all due respect to Jared Gordon, she should have lost that fight, Paddy. And, he should have that loss on his record. That looks a lot worse than a loss to Tony Ferguson, even if, we're talking about the artist formerly known as. If he wins, on the other hand, mate, where do you go after beating Tony Ferguson? You're going to be fighting somebody there's somebody ranked more than likely, whether it is, a Matt Frivola, a Drew Doumbe, or somebody like that. That's kind of where you're looking at, Renato Moicano, somebody in that ilk. You know, you beat Tony Ferguson, they're the kind of guys you're going to have to get in there with. And I don't know, maybe Paddy's ready, maybe he's not, but we'll see.
Yeah, we will. I was going to say, actually, Matt Frivola, that call out that time, I mean, maybe that's the way to go. Honestly, I don't see him doing very well right now against a Moicano or even a Drew Dober. I mean, if he leaves his chin up like that against Dober, he's gonna get dropped. He's gonna get put down. He's gonna get found out. But even Moicano, Moicano's good everywhere. I think he would be a problem for Paddy at this stage. So maybe you go the Frivola route. But yeah, it's difficult to kind of work out at the moment because we just don't know his full skill set, like his ceiling, his potential. So yeah, it's a tricky one. But
I think like you said, it's when you look at that situation, that's my problem with it. If Paddy had come off that contentious win against Jared Gordon and been put back in with somebody at the same level, if you like, as Jared Gordon from a name recognition wise, it's kind of continuing that slow build for Paddy. Whereas it feels like now it's a kind of sink or swim situation where they're saying, here's Tony Ferguson, go out and beat Tony Ferguson. But then the next step has to be somebody that's up there, like I said, like a Drew Dober, like a Moicano. And I agree with you. I don't think at this very moment, I don't think Paddy's ready for that. You know, like you said, Moicano stylistically is a nightmare, more probably. And like you said, when you talk about Drew Dober, I mean, he'll smash Paddy to bits if Paddy doesn't sort out that, leaving that chin up. Be an entertaining scrap, don't get me wrong, because Drew can be hurt as well, but it's an entertaining fight, don't get it. But I don't know. It just feels like Paddy's maybe being pushed in the direction of the rankings maybe quicker than he's probably ready for, but it's the UFC, man. Sink or swim.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's an absolute shark tank of a division, isn't it? I think we're talking the best maybe behind the bantamweight division. I mean, that's probably my opinion at the moment. But to go back to the card this weekend, if Dawson gets the win, who do you reckon's next for him? Because I was thinking maybe someone like a Sarukian, maybe someone like that in the rankings. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised with that. Sort of something around that kind of, top 10 area. I mean, he's ranked 10 at the minute, right, Dawson?
Yeah, he's 10 right now.
So, you're not going to get anybody top 6, top 5, because we had Gamrot's at 6, Fiziv's at 7, I believe now. So you're probably only looking at 8, 9, and 10. I've not looked at the rankings to see in those positions, but yeah, he's got to be somebody there. There's not a lot else makes sense for Grant Dawson realistically. I mean, he's not going to get anybody higher. Charles is booked against Islam. He's not going to get that. You've got Gaethje waiting in the wings for a title shot. You've got Poirier. Poirier's not going to fight Grant Dawson anyway. That's never going to happen. No. You look at Beneil Dariush. I would imagine that Dariush and Gamrot might end up running something back there. That's probably something that's likely. Chandler's obviously waiting for Conor. It's just like I said. You look at Fiziv's obviously out, so you're kind of limited with who you can put up for him next.
Yeah, you can't completely write off the Dariush Gamrot rematch, but I don't know about you, but I just didn't think that Gamrot looked all that good in the Dariush fight. I mean, Dariush looked really good in that one. I don't know if you need to do it.
Yeah, No, I think the problem is, like I said, it's the same thing for Gamrot. You look at those rankings, mate, and Gamrot's at 6. Chandler's fighting Conor, apparently. We continue to see whether that's ever going to happen.
Who knows?
Chandler's potentially fighting Conor. Gamrot and Poirier is not going to happen. Gamrot Gaethje is not going to happen. Gamrot Oliveira, should he lose to Makhachev? I mean, maybe, but if you're Oliveira, is that one that you're going down that far straight away off the back of a title defeat? I'm not so sure.
No, it wouldn't be appealing for him, would it?
No, so it kind of again leaves Beneil with limited options as to who he goes with next. And if it's not going to be Gamrot, if he doesn't believe that does anything for him, then again he's got to be looking down at taking on someone like a Sarukian himself. I mean, for Farouk and the Beneil Dariush fight is perfect. But again, we'll see what happens with that.
Yes, we will. Yeah, it's an interesting time, isn't it? We'll move on to Alex Morono, Joaquin Buckley. This could be a good fight. I mean, Morono's won 5 of his last 6. He's a tough guy. He got a decent finish over Tim Means last time. His cardio is good. He can push the pace. Got great jiu-jitsu. He's worked on his stand-up game recently as well. I'll give him that. I think it'll be a tough fight for Buckley, but I also think that Buckley's is looking good as well. He looked great in his last one. He destroyed Andre Fiallo. And that was at welterweight rather than middleweight. So it'll be interesting to see if he can put a good run together at 170, Buckley. I think Morono will probably turn to the grappling as soon as he can. I don't think he's going to want to stand with Buckley for too long. How do you see this one going?
Well, give me your official prediction first, mate, before I again end up jumping into the hot seat. Are you going Buckley?
Yeah, I'm going to pick Buckley by a finish, third round finish.
Okay. I'm going to go against you, mate, actually. And this one, I think, not that MMA maths ever works, but if you look at these two, Buckley's last win was over Fiallo, and Morono's last win was over Tim Means. And Tim Means just smashed Fiallo to bits. So, if you look at it that way, then it's Alex Morono's all day. But we also know it doesn't work like that. But
No.
I think Alex Morono, we've seen him a couple of times. Sometimes he's looked great, and sometimes he's flattered to deceive a little bit. But I think it could be a really interesting fight. Buckley needed that drop in weight. I mean, he was very honest about it. He basically said that I got fed up of getting knocked out by guys that were massively bigger than me. This is definitely the weight he should be fighting at. And
agreed.
Yeah, he new lease of life and a new opportunity for him. But I'm not convinced. I think we might see Morono get this one done.
Interesting. Well, it'll be good to chat about that on the podcast next time after the fight, depending on what's happened. So, yeah, we'll see. What about Drew Dober against Ricky Glenn then? Dober's back. He's always a fun watch, and Drew Dober. We all know he can crack. He'll probably put the pressure on Glenn. Look for an early stoppage, I reckon. Glenn's best bet will probably be getting Dober to the mat. But not sure if he'll actually manage that, or if he does, can he keep him there? Dober was finished in his last fight by Frivola. But I don't know. Sometimes fighters can psychologically be affected by something like that in their next fight. If they get finished, if they get knocked out, and the next one they're a bit tentative. I don't think we're going to see that from Drew Dober. I think he's going to bring it like he always does. So I'm going to probably pick him by KO as well. I think he's going to do it. What do you reckon?
Well, I've just been nodding or shaking my head in agreement with everything you've just said, mate. So yeah, it's there's not a lot for me to add. It's very similar to the main event for me, which bizarrely Drew Dober smashed Bobby Green to bits, and here he is fighting on a Bobby Green undercard. But hey ho, that's the game. It's what have you done for me lately? And like you said, Drew Dober last time out fell short against Frivola, but I think anybody knew that when Frivola and Drew were matched up, it was a case of who was going to land first. That was always kind of going to be the case. Drew comes. I think you're right. I don't see him being affected by this whatsoever. I think he will just take it on the chin and, no pun intended, take it on the chin and say, shit happens in this game. We both went in there. We both went slinging. He landed. I didn't. That's the game. I don't see any real reason why he would change his approach to this one. And I'm expecting a good return to form for Drew Dober with a stoppage win inside maybe 2 rounds.
Yeah, I'm with you all the way there. How about then Alexander Hernandez takes on Bill Algeo? Hernandez, he's been really inconsistent in the UFC so far, hasn't he? I'm still wondering what his ceiling actually is. Like, I feel like he was humbled by Cowboy big time. That time he was talking mad shit and talking about Cowboy's age and everything like that, and Cowboy starched him. So, what do you make of Hernandez as a fighter, and do you like his chances at all against Algeo here?
No. I think, like you said, I think it's been too inconsistent. I mean, stylistically, it could be an interesting one just to see how it plays out. This, because there's a number of different ways that it can kind of go. But both guys have shown different elements to the games, but I'm not sold on the idea. I think Hernandez is just, like I said, I think he's been too inconsistent. I think he's talked a big game and not really backed it up. And I think he's probably fighting at the level he is right now. If I'm being completely honest, I think he's going to be. We talked about it earlier on with the Bobby Green thing. You reach a ceiling, you step up, and you keep getting beat. I think that's going to be a situation that becomes kind of a theme in the Alexander Hernandez career, mate. If I'm completely honest.
Yeah, he can be kind of wild sometimes as well, can't he? And he tends to gas out. I'm not sure about him at featherweight. He seems like a big featherweight. He probably cuts a lot of weight. Algio can, Algio's a good grappler and he's got an orthodox striking. I think Algio probably gets a decision win here.
He's almost like a shrunk down version of Michel Pereira at times. He kind of calmed things down a little bit, but just that crazy, erratic kind of style, gassing out because just doing too much crazy shit and not doing the fundamentals. You got to dial that down and tone it in if you're going to be successful. But some people just aren't like that. They just, you look at your Kevin Hollands and whatever else, you saw him try and dial down his own kind of temperaments and attitudes and everything else. And that last fight with Jack Della Maddalena was dreadful. There was nothing of any real note happening in the fight. It was just, a bit poor. And, you've kind of got to have that character and be authentic. But there's also a time when you do have to dial it in a little bit. And I think, I'm not sold on it. So I'm gonna go against him this weekend, mate.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
And I won't be here next weekend to have to explain myself either. So
yeah, well, we'll just have to wait till the one after that then, maybe. We can't let you get off the hook. Any other fights kind of stand out to you on this one? Any other fights you of note that you want to talk about?
No, obviously we've got the Ion Cutelaba fight, but other than that, mate, it's kind of one of those typical UFC Vegas cards to an element. It's kind of a lower tier, isn't it? You look in the prelims. There's not a massive amount there to kind of dig out. Oh God, what is it? Third fight on the main card, just before the Drew Dober fight. Remind me.
Oh, on this
Hakan and Joe Piver, is it?
Joe Piver, yeah.
Yeah. That one, from a stylistic point of view, could be an interesting one. It'd be interesting to see what happens in that one. I'd kind of sit on the fence a little bit here, but I think it's got potential to have its moments. That one for sure.
Yeah.
What about you? Anything on there standing out?
No, well, you just mentioned it. The co-main is probably the other one to watch, but apart from that, I think we're all kind of looking forward to 294 at the moment, aren't we?
Definitely.
Next weekend isn't all that bad either, but yeah, I think the UFC 294 card that's the one we're all kind of looking forward to. I was going to ask you about one championship. I don't know if you caught Stamp Fairtex at the weekend.
Yeah, I caught the highlights, mate. There was a lot going off, but as you know, I kind of look after the world of boxing as well. So there was a lot of boxing going off last weekend, and that was kind of the main focus for me. But I've obviously seen the highlights. I've caught what happened there, and obviously I suppose the biggest story doesn't involve either of those names, really, does it, mate? Let's be honest.
Yeah,
we're talking about Angela Lee and the retirement there, and it's a sad state, mate. It's disappointing to see her walk away, but with everything that she's been through and the revelations that she made recently, regarding the car crash and where her head was at during those times, it's she's obviously come to a realization that there's more to life, or she's got higher priorities than fighting right now. And if that's the right thing for her family and everything else, then who are we to hold her back from that? So she's chosen to step away. It's sad to see her walk away from the sport, but ultimately, provides new opportunities, and we have a new champion now.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, she beat Ham in pretty convincing style. I mean, Ham dropped her early, but Stamp rallied and almost got a submission there, but finished the fight in the end with some savage body shots. And great fight overall, I thought. But yeah, to touch on what you were saying, it was really brave of her to come out and say all that, and then kind of relinquish that title and retire in the way she did. And I mean, who knows to what extent what was really going on behind the scenes? But as you say, if it's the right thing for her and her family, then credit to her for that. So I think that about does it for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you enjoyed it. Please join us again.
Sorry, mate. Have you got a plan for next week? Because I think is Taylor's away, or are you doing it earlier? Is it going to be you and Taylor next week?
Yeah,
I'm on holiday, so
yeah, I think the plan is to do it earlier. We did mention possibly Sunday night. It might have to be Sunday night because Monday night I'll be busy, but we can do it Sunday night. Yeah, it's probably the way forward there. We'll get it done earlier. We'll get something out.
Yeah, it'd be nice for everyone to see a different face on here instead of mine, and my dulcet tones get Taylor on instead.
You've been doing great, mate. I've enjoyed all the podcasts that you've been on and carrying the ship, basically. So it's been good to see.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
But yeah, please join us again next week. And I suppose it'll be out early next week. Thank you for joining me, Nathan.
No,
we'd love it if you could subscribe to the YouTube channel. We constantly have great content coming out on there. Please go over to Spotify and Apple as well to listen and subscribe to the podcast. We're all over the socials at Combat Sports UK, so give us a follow, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.